Thank you, Doc, for inviting me to open this year's conference. I'm under no illusion that I am nothing other than the warm-up act for all of those amazing people who will be speaking later on the agenda, sharing with you lots of aspects of inclusion and hopefully leaving you with lots of shiny new ideas that you can magpie and take back to your schools. I want to talk about one aspect of inclusion that my colleagues will not talk about today because it's not one that is often discussed or debated. It is the effect of photonism on learners with legatus. Now, I'm sure you've seen the data on this, just to underline what an impact this has on those learners with legatus. But if you haven't seen the data, if you imagine, I'm sure you've seen the new Fountainville building in Smithson Square. I'm not familiar, I think it's New Manham. You know the building, it's a very unique outline. And if you imagine the outline of that building as a line plotted on a graph, the spike that is the chimney back left represents those learners with legatus. And that just underlines what a significant impact photonism has on those learners. Now, this is an aspect of inclusion that is not debated enough. It's not discussed enough because it is utter nonsense. Every word I've spoken is gibberish. I have just made it all up. So if you're sat there thinking, I think I'm having a stroke, or Matt is having a stroke live on stage, then please rest assured it was utter nonsense. I could see your faces, and I wasn't sure how long I could keep going, whilst you were looking at your neighbours thinking, Mike, what photo? Get on Google, quick, we've missed something important. No, photonism, I made it up, legatus, made up. Hopefully, that has given you some sense of what it feels like to be excluded, to not understand what someone is talking to you about. Because the concept, the idea was unfamiliar to you, you had no background knowledge with which to access and understand what I was saying. More than that, you didn't have the language capability, the vocab with which to understand what I was saying. Now, of course, in school, we often impart information to learners that is new to them. That is why they are at school. We want them to learn new things. However, when we do that, we tend to make use of analogies, metaphors. We help them to access and understand new abstract information like photonism through the context of what is familiar and concrete. And I attempted to do just that. So I compared this data, which you are probably unfamiliar with because it doesn't exist, with something that I presumed you would know, the new Fountainville building, which doesn't exist either, nor does Smithson Square. Well, it might do, but I've no idea where it is. It's certainly not a New Manham because I made that up too. So the analogy didn't work because you also didn't have the lived experience with which to access that curriculum content. In order to achieve true inclusion, we need not just to view inclusion through the lens of those learners who need more or different support in order to access a challenging, ambitious curriculum, we also need to think more carefully, more strategically about the extent to which our curriculum talks to our learners, so that it makes sense to our learners, so they can access it. And we need to think more carefully about the extent to which our curriculum represents the lived experiences of our learners. Because if they do not see themselves reflected back in what we teach and how we teach it, they are in danger, as I think some of you just demonstrated, of thinking, this isn't for me. I'm not included. This is not about me. This is not my world, because what this teacher is saying to me bears no relevance to my life, to what I know, to what I understand, to what I hold dear. So I want to talk to you today in this session, not just about differentiation or adaptive teaching, doing more and different things to allow learners who are so-called less able, lower performing, or have additional and different needs to access the same ambitious curriculum as their peers, but I also want to talk about the extent to which that curriculum that we teach reflects our learners. Now, that's not enough, because we don't want to limit our learners, so we don't just want to make sure that our curriculum talks to their own life and experiences. We need it to do that for sure, but we also then want to take them beyond those experiences, and we want to educate them in a more diverse world so they can become more empathetic, they can understand people from different backgrounds and cultures with different needs.